Well, with the current prices of fuel, one would probably want to have an electric car, infrastructure and everything notwithstanding, and probably just plug it directly into a station like that so you don't have problems with charging. So Dacia has thought about this and said, well, we'll make our first electric car, which is the Dacia Spring. And coincidentally, it's also one of the cheapest electric cars available in Europe. Let's see what's under the hood. Obviously an electric motor, and because this is a cheaper electric car, don't expect anything fancy like all-wheel drive and things like that. So anyway, there's not a lot of stuff in here. There's actually a lot of space, unusually so. The electric motor is quite tiny. It's got about 45 horsepower, I believe, which should make it quite economical, which is the whole point of this thing. And this is not the battery. It is a battery, but it's a 12 volt auxiliary battery. The actual big battery is back there underneath, like usual. So yeah, this should be quite interesting on the road.
Spring is a small city car, quite short, narrow and agile. It's very easy to park in tight spaces.
I'd like to show you something else quite interesting. You've got regular handles here, mechanical ones. You've got a regular old school mechanical lock over here, but at the back the engineers and designers said, nah, let's go for something more deluxe. So you get a little button here to open the trunk with. Quite fancy. Anyway, because this is a city runaround, there's not a lot of space. We've got our equipment here and in the back because there's simply not enough space here, but also there's cables underneath for charging. But because, like I said, this is a city car, there's actually plenty of space for your shopping, whatever it is, groceries or bags of batteries.
The exterior has a pretty neutral look. It doesn't try to be futuristic, nor does it look old. Of course, don't expect LED lights, a sunroof or similar. You do get a simple instrument cluster showing you how economical you are with the gas pedal, the state of charge of the batteries, and a central screen showing you other information, including your speed. The seats in this top package are wrapped in leather, which is surprising. Because there's no seat cooling or heating, you can expect them to be hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Would be nice to have a textile option.
Whenever I do car reviews and tests, I try to be both objective, considering the car's performance and technical specifications and so on, but also subjective as to how it feels, what I think about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. But I always want to be truthful. There is no funny business going on. So if the car is bad, I'm gonna tell you it's bad. If it's very good, if it's very nice, I obviously tell you that as well. So why am I saying this? Well, because this is one of the cars where when I saw the price for it and I sat down in it for the first time, I honestly thought right at the start, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a bad review. I'm going to not be very happy with this thing because, well, it tries to be a cheap car for about 20,000 euros. So there's a lot of hard plastics. Yes, the seats are sort of wrapped in leather, but they're not overly comfortable, especially the bench in the back is not comfortable at all. There's not a lot of space. It's only 45 horsepower. You can do about 200 kilometers on a single charge if you're careful. You know, there's not a lot of going for it. So I honestly thought, this is just not good. And I started doing the test going in with a bad feeling, going in with a negative feeling of the car, and I never want to do that. So I want you to understand my full meaning when I say that I'm starting to really, really like this car after driving it for more than just a couple of hours. So why did I have a bad feeling about it at first? Well, I've already said a part of it is that it's 20,000 euros for a very small, not so well equipped car, let's say. You only get a 45 horsepower electric engine, which really, to be honest, when I driven the other electric cars, is not nearly as lively as the others. You don't get that oomph of instant power. You still do a little bit, but it runs out of steam very quickly. Top speed is about 130 kilometers per hour. You can get up to that speed, and it'll happily stay there. But you know, you're not going to be doing any sort of racing, and it's not really meant to be. This is a city car first and foremost, but you can take it on the freeway. So that, and I also saw the interior at first. You know, it's very plasticky, cheap. But then, you know, I started driving it, and I started going here and there, and I saw the consumption of electricity and how it feels. Yes, the seats aren't that comfortable. The front seats are okay-ish. There is no adjustment of the steering wheel, none. It is where it is. There's also no height adjustment for the driver's seat or any of the seats, which means that I have to pull it back, which means there's not a lot of space in the back for passengers. And I also don't quite see the top of the instrument cluster because, well, I'm too tall for that. And I'm of average height. So if you're taller than that, you're going to see even less. So not ideal. But then I started thinking about it. Is it really that badly equipped? Sure, it doesn't have crazy new tech. It doesn't have laser lights. It doesn't have adaptive LEDs. It doesn't have, I don't know, cooled seats, which is kind of weird that they put leather on this. And of course there's no ventilation, which means it's going to be a bit hot in the summer. And there's no heated seats. That one would be nice. That one would be really nice to have. Unfortunately, no heated seats. But, you know, on the other hand, you get everything you really want. You get air conditioning, which, by the way, works brilliantly. I was actually expecting, hand in hand with my negative view of this car in the beginning, I was actually expecting the AC to barely do anything. But you press it, it's all manual, by the way, there's no automatic climate control here. But you turn on the AC, you put it on 1 or 2, for example, the fan, and it beautifully air conditions the inside of the car. It's been quite hot outside, and this thing has been keeping up very nicely, so I'm very happy with that. The electric heater, there is no heat pump in this. There is an electric heater, which means that in the in the winter, if you're using heating, you will be drinking a lot more of the electricity from the battery. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, apart from that, I've got an infotainment screen. Yes, it's the old Dacia infotainment screen, you know, but it works. You've got a navigation, you've got Bluetooth connectivity, you've got radio, DAB, you've got everything. You know, and you've got an electric engine, obviously no gears, so you just put it into drive and that's it. I mean, what more would you really want, apart from a bit more space, perhaps? So I started thinking, it does have everything it needs to have. And it's a city car. And you can even take it on the freeway, on the motorway, I mean. 130, that's the limit over here at least. Sure, you don't want to take it on the Autobahn, perhaps, but you could always just drive behind trucks, no problem. Let's talk about electricity consumption, or in other words, fuel consumption, if you want. Well, right now my average electrical consumption is 11.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, if you haven't driven electric cars, or if you don't know much about them, that number probably won't mean much to you, because we're used to liters per 100 kilometers, or miles per gallon, or what have you. But anyway, let me put this into perspective. Most of the electric cars that I have driven have had an average electrical consumption of about 21 to 24-ish kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So this is about half as much. Now, there is a caveat here. Those cars I did take a bit more on the freeways or the motorways. This one not as much, but I did also take it on motorways. So, you know, this does take that into account. And I've tried to drive them all reasonably economically. So I think even if you did take this car on the motorways more, which it wasn't really designed for, you would still get a much lower electrical consumption, average electrical consumption, than those cars. And I think a big part of the reason is not just the electric engine, which is much smaller, much less powerful, but also the fact that most of those electric cars are about 2 tons with all the batteries, because they have a lot of range. And this car, well, it's about a ton. So even though I did go into this test with a negative feeling about the car, I will fully admit that, it actually really grew on me. It's a tiny city roundabout that's actually capable of going on the motorway. It doesn't use a lot of electricity. It's reasonable inside. It's got plenty of equipment, if you think about it. And it even has semi-fast charging. I think it takes about 30 kilowatts maximum, something like that. I'm not entirely sure about this, but never when I was charging it did it feel like a really long time, especially on a fast charger. If you're charging it back at home, yeah, you'll probably want to charge it overnight, at least. But, you know, it really grew on me. It's quite fun, it's quite agile, it's completely fine for cities. And like I said, the electrical consumption is really, really good. So I'm warming up to the 20,000 euro price, to be honest. If you really, really want an electric car, a small city electric car, and you're not going to be taking all your friends on long drives, then this is really reasonable.
The basic spring starts at just under 20,000 euros. For the fully loaded model with the extra charging cables, you'll be paying 22,000 euros.